Hello. and welcome to our special forum tonight on prostate cancer awareness. As you're all aware, this is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And so we're trying to do a little something special to create a little bit more awareness in our market. We'd like to get the evening started with a prayer, and we'd ask Mr. Wendell Barry to lead us off in a prayer, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Our Father and our God, architect of all creations, always is a good and proper time to thank thee and praise thee for thy continuous blessings and mercies provided, especially to thy humankind. May it be our always favored prayer of gratitude for preserving our jewel, our founding president, Susan Roberts, who continuously to dutifully serve from 45 years ago. We also thank thee for succeeding presidents, board members, general staff, the officers and members of our 13 Family Island constituent branches, and also our fundraising committees. Now, Heavenly Father, we send our sincere gratitude for enriching this charitable hearts of all who have donated during the past 44 years, attaining the caring and sharing objective of the Cancer Society. Finally, Heavenly Father, we thank thee for the framers of this initiative designed to influence the awareness of prostate cancer and otherwise prostate diseases. We pray now thy attending blessings on these proceedings and all participants. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Barry. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rochelle Wilkinson, president of the Cancer Society, but I'm not your host this evening. I am going to introduce you to your host for the evening, who's none other than Dr. Nicholas Fox. He'll be overseeing the meeting tonight, and he'll be introducing you also to his co-host. And without further ado, I will turn the meeting over to him. Dr. Fox, over to you.
Thank you, Rochelle. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. Good evening, all, and welcome to this Prostate Cancer Forum 2022. I think the timing is so appropriate, and this is indeed needed to jog awareness and to promote proper and early screening to reduce the vast number of prostate cancers that we are seeing in this Bahamas. Prostate cancer is indeed an issue in this country. Tonight promises to be informative, educational, and hopefully stimulate more interest in joining this campaign to ensure that prostate cancer awareness is priority and that more is to be done to encourage all to be screened. My co-host tonight is no other than Mr. Avril Mortimer, who is a chapter leader of the US2 group in Freeport. Mr. Mortimer has been in education and training since 1975. He hails from Nassau by way of Inagua, Eleuthera, and Long Island. He's a real Family Island man. He was educated at St. Augustine's, of course, in the class of 1971. He attended Butane Cookman College, where he received a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in economics and management. He then matriculated at the University of Miami, where he achieved a master's degree in education with concentrations in curriculum and instruction. He has certificates from other universities, such as the University of the West Indies, Collective Bargaining and Industrial Training Tribunal Procedures. He also has certificates in financial management from the Credit Union National Association in the USA. He has numerous other certificates in travel. He's like me, he loves to travel. And he is currently the owner of a travel agency called Travels by Avril. That's nice to know, Mr. Mortimer. Avril has also lectured part-time at various tertiary institutions in Grand Bahama, BTVI, University of the Bahamas, Trevere College, and Bahamas Institute of Business and Technology. He has been the area vice president, Grand Bahama of the Bahamas Union of Teachers for more than 12 years and was the principal researcher and author of the Career Path for Public School Teachers. He is currently chapter leader of the US2 group in Grand Bahama, a prostate cancer support group, which is now registered as a nonprofit organization. He became chapter leader in 2017. During his tenure, US2 Grand Bahama screened over 800 men in a single year. Wow, that's a lot. Avril is also president and charter member of the Omicron Phi Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity and Company, which he joined in 1973. He has been a member of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, area VP for 12 plus years. He has also been a member of the Rotary Club of Lucaya and the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, American Accounting Association, International Society of Business Education. He also wrote and compiled papers on year-round schooling, should we try year-round education, service learning, it's more than community service, a case for an entrepreneurship academy, BGCSE coursework guide for commerce and economics, effective after-school programs. Mr. Mora has also conducted workshops, seminars, and money management, strategic planning, financial planning, workplace communications, and team training. Mr. Mortimer, that's a lot. That's a lot of accolades, and kudos to you. And welcome to the show. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Mr. Mortimer?
I think that was quite a long list. I was wondering who you're talking about. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, and welcome to the show, and we're glad to have you. Tonight we have three distinguished gentlemen who will also be presenting and telling us about their battle with prostate cancer, what they did to survive. The first presenter we have tonight is Mr. Earl Bethel, followed by Mr. Tim Ingram, and then Mr. Valentine Mora. As each speaker begins or as I introduce each speaker to speak, I will give a little bio on them. I will be remiss if I don't speak about the medical aspects of prostate cancer so we can get the audience in tune as to what's going on and what we're talking about. At first, I would like to show a short video about a famous football player that went through the process of being diagnosed with prostate cancer and being treated. Aaron, can you show us the video?
Some of you may know me from playing 14 years in the National Football League, winning 3 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm also the 267th member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Some of you may know me from being a co-host of Skip and Shannon Undisputed. But what you didn't know is I'm a prostate cancer survivor. And thanks to early screening and early detection, I was able to beat this disease. There's a 96% survival rate thanks to early screening and early detection. Being unafraid, I knew it could possibly save my life. And it did. Black men, I'm encouraging you, with September being Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, it's time for you to talk that talk. Go visit your doctor. It could possibly save your life. I'm Shannon Sharp.
Thank you for that video. Now, more awareness is needed to battle this natural health disaster, as I call it, a natural health disaster. Many Bahamian men will face this demon. In fact, many will be diagnosed this year with prostate cancer at an advanced stage and will die needlessly. Prostate cancer will affect 1 in 6 Bahamian men. I want you to listen to these statistics. 1 in 6. And the Bahamas has the 14th highest rate in the world in terms of prostate cancer. This is a shocking reality, and we must first face this challenge head on. We may ask, what are the signs and symptoms of prostate cancer, and why is it important for early screening? Signs and symptoms may include frequency, trouble stopping or starting the urine flow, weak stream, dribbling, or what we may call leaking, decrease in ejaculation, blood in the urine, urgency, painful ejaculation. What does screening entail? The PSA or the blood test. The dreaded DRE, that's the finger, digital rectal exam. An ultrasound of the prostate or a prostate biopsy. Now, it is important to note that the PSA is not a telltale definite diagnosis of prostate cancer because it may not be elevated and a lesion can still be present. Also, many other things can elevate the PSA, such as an enlarged prostate, which men experience once they reach a certain age, usually over the age of 40, older age, infections, simple things like riding a bicycle and putting pressure in that area, or ejaculation.
Your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic, sir.
And if you have any questions, you can save them to the end. Now, I'm going to introduce Mr. Earl Bethel. Mr. Earl Bethel will be our first speaker. Mr. Bethel's education includes, he attended Miami-Dade College. He received an associate's degree in hotel management. He attended Morris Brown College, where he received a bachelor's of applied science in hotel management and restaurant management. He is past president and honorary lifetime member of the Rotary Club of Southeast Nassau. Past president, Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association, January 2004 to January 2006. Past president and board member of the Cancer Society of the Bahamas, January 2006 to April 2016. Mr. Bethel has generally worked in the hotel and tourism industry for many years as general manager of Hopetown Lodge, Abaco, Comfort Suites, Paradise Island, Wyndham Nassau Beach, as executive sales director at Bahama, with a small stint during COVID with Echo Water as plant manager. Now, currently, Earl is working in his field of passion again as the island operations director of Disney Cruise Line at Castaway Cay. Mr. Bethel, I'd like to welcome you to the show, and I'd like you to tell us your story.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and share information with fellow Bahamian men in particular. I could register with what Dr. Fox has, I could relate to what Dr. Fox has said as signs and diagnosis and all that kind of stuff for prostate cancer. And as he has stated, I am a survivor. And what happened is, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet, but I used to watch my father as he went through prostate cancer. And I always said that I didn't want to have to go through the pain that I saw him go through when he was going through the process. What had happened was, because of a history in the family, I went ahead and I started testing at age 36. Because the one thing I learned from being around the Cancer Society, and well, one of the things that really struck me was I saw where individuals were coming into the Cancer Caring Center and they were finding out about their diagnosis with cancer, whether it's prostate or any other, at a late stage in the cancer, stage 3, 4. That's not good. But so what I did was I watched what my father went through so I could prepare myself in case it happened. Well, I started testing at age 36. I was diagnosed at age 39. So you don't wait until 40, especially if you have a family history, because you know it's recommended you wait until 40. And just as Shannon Sharp said, you know, hey, family history, so you better test. And even though men may feel as though, you know, the digital test is one that, oh, you know, manhood and all that. You need to put all that aside because after all, you got to think about your family members. So it's better to know. And it goes right back to, and that in conjunction with the PSA, a two tests that has to be done in tandem at the same time. But the thing about it is when I found out, I went ahead and I went and saw quite a few urologists, and I opted to go with radical prostatectomy, which is to remove the prostate itself. And what had happened was the cancer was confined to the prostate. And with that being the case, I removed it, and they're all kind of different procedures, you know, and I one of the things I recommend, just to put you at a comfort level, you should get more than one advice from more than one doctor, just so you could to know that you're properly diagnosed, because this is a very serious thing, especially when you start removing body parts. And let me just go back a bit and tell you what I was going through, what made me even think that I had the possibility of having prostate cancer. There were times when I would get up and urine quite frequently at night. There were times that I would go to urine and I wasn't able to urine. You don't know how after my procedure to have a stream of urine back to some normalcy was a blessing. I know there are many times that I go to use the restroom and I'd meet a gentleman there standing at the urine and I go there, I do what I have to do, and I still leave that person there. I say, oh my God, he has a problem. But so I did radical prostatectomy. I did it to the point, like I say, early detection is key. And I did not need any form of radiation nor chemotherapy to this date. I haven't had any of that treatment. So I've been very fortunate. And it's only because I acted very quickly to do what was best for my health. And for men, I know with that procedure, you know, Bahamian men, we want to save our manhood and all that kind of stuff, but they do have what they call nerve sparing procedures where they can spare the nerves and you'll still be able to do what you have to do. The only thing is, if you were interested in anybody, which I did myself, if you were interested in having any more children, you would have to save in a sperm bank. And then having gone through all of that, because I did it at an early age, when I took on the presidency of the Cancer Society, I made it a point to do education, especially when I saw a prostate book that was done, a breast cancer booklet that was done by Dr. Larry Carroll. We then took it on to do colon cancer, prostate cancer by other doctors so that we could spread that information about the country. And then we went into doing branches within the Family Islands. And we brought on an educator and we went into school system. But I could tell you now, like Dr. Fox mentioned earlier, early detection is key and you can live a long, healthy life. I'm at the age, I'll tell you all, I'm at the age of 60 now. So that means it's been 21 years since I've gone through my process and I am perfect health, I would say. I don't want to be too long as I know you have other presenters, but that's my story.
Dr. Fox, you're muted. We can't hear you.
What was the most telling sign that you had that prompted you to believe you had prostate cancer? And what advice would you give to these, I don't know, Bahamian men that are fearful and terrified to have their prostate checked?
Well, the most telling signs, like I say, I was getting up 3-4 times a night to go and urine. When I even get there, I wasn't able to have a full stream of urine. There was also blood in my urine at one point in time. And the thing about it is, I want to, the one thing men got to be, you know, we don't like to be treated medically. But the thing about it is, what you got to think about is your family members. I think, and there has to be support from family members to see you through with all you have to do. But you have to look at extending your life so that you could take care and do the things that you're responsible as a gentleman. And more than likely, I know that women don't like you to say this anymore, but head of the household, because you know, they need you around. And not only that, if you don't take care of yourself and be treated properly, what's going to happen is you're going to drag those individuals through a it could be a long process of you being ill, and then they have to be the ones to take care of you. You don't really want that, you know. So the best thing to do in order to be around, do what you need to do and do it early, especially when the signs appear, you know.
And I agree, but not just for the family, for yourself.
Yeah.
Why would you want to subject yourself to all that pain and suffering? Mr. Mortimer, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, one of the few comments was the radical surgery. I have a member, I don't know if any of you have seen the documentary done by, I think, Beverly Curry. Prostate cancer is not a death sentence. She airs it every year during September. But one of our members indicated that he had to have the surgery. And he says he's back to 95% of his sexual ability. And at his age, he don't need any more children. So, you know, that was a saving because most men think that that's the end all right there when you have the surgery. And he said, I mean, at almost 70, back to 95% of what he was, I think is something very great. And of course, you have those persons, they would complain about that, but they don't want to come in.
And I agree with you 100%, Mr. Mortimer. A lot of men fear that once they're diagnosed with prostate cancer and they're treated, then they become totally impotent and sex is over. But we can dispel that myth. That's not the case. Of course, it happens in some men, but a lot of men have some recovery, if not complete recovery, once they have the surgery, depending on what type of surgery they have and where they have it. Nowadays, with all the modern techniques like the robotic surgery, the likelihood of erectile dysfunction is greatly reduced.
Dr. Fox, one more thing I'd like to add is that with cancer, you know, no two persons can have the same results. So some things work, and then you have plenty options as far as treatment. So it have to be something that a person is comfortable with.
Is past pressed low? Pardon me?
I didn't hear you.
No,
Hello?
I was introducing Mr. Ingram.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, you've been muted, actually. We weren't hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Well, Timothy Ingram. Mr. Ingram is a past assistant governor of Rotary Club in the Bahamas West. He is past president of the Rotary Club of Southeast Nassau and a past district member chair. He is a Paul Harris Fellow, a Rotary Major Donor, and a member of the Rotary Bequest Society. He is also a member of the Rotary Whiskey and Rum Fellowship, and the Rotarian Action Group for Peace. Tim has over 30 years experience in the general insurance industry in the Bahamas and in the UK. He is a fellow of the Chartered Insurance Institute, a chartered insurer, and is managing director of Summit Insurance Company. He is the past president of the Insurance Institute of the Bahamas, past chairman of the Bahamas Insurance Association, and past director of the Insurance Association of the Caribbean and the Association of Insurance Institutes of the Caribbean. He is also vice chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and past director and treasurer of Hands for Hunger. He was born and raised in Tappan Bay in the Great People's Republic of Eleuthera, and currently considers himself in financial exile in Nassau until he can return to his beloved Eleuthera. Tim is married to Yvette and has three children, Torsha, Donard, and Tanis. He enjoys reading, travel, good wine and spirits, woodworking, and thinks Rotary. Mr. Ingram, can you tell us your story?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'll be happy to tell you my story briefly. Before I get started, Val Mora has lost his connection. He's trying to get back on. I told him worst case scenario, he can reboot his machine and try it again. So unlike Earl, I didn't have a family history of prostate cancer, but I was vigilant and diligent with going to my doctor to make sure I got my annual physicals. He made sure to schedule it around my birthday, so whenever the birthday came up, I knew it's time for the physical. So after a few years of physicals, Graham Cates was my doctor, and he was doing the digitals, and he started to do more of the PSAs. One year we noticed my PSA had jumped from the 0.1, i.e. Hardly traceable, to 1.5. The next year when I went back, it was 2.5. And then the year after that, it was 3.5. So he said to me, this is going in the wrong direction. There's obviously something going on here. And then he sent me to Dr. Anwala, the urologist, to get checked out. Dr. Anwala's test, same thing. There was nothing, they weren't feeling anything on the digital. And so Dr. Anwala then went in and did some biopsies. When the biopsies came back, a few of them showed some sign of a cancer, but it didn't seem to be an aggressive cancer. But two of them had a fairly high Gleason score, as I think they call it, which meant it was fairly aggressive. So I remember I'd gone in and I'd done the biopsy, and he said to me, they'll be back in 2 weeks, come back and see me then. You and your wife come back, he said to me. And he said, the day we were supposed to go back, there was a little mix up in the time. My wife wasn't with me. I get to the office. He says to me, where's your wife? I said, well, she got tied up somewhere, and I told her, don't bother to come. So he says, no, call your wife. And so when he said that, I knew, okay, there's obviously a problem. And so he waited until she came, and then we sat down. And the first words he said to me, he said, if you do what I tell you, you will not die. This is not a death sentence. And then he proceeded to tell me that the results of the testing. It didn't shock me right away, actually. I was very logical, very reasonable, and sat down. And the reason he had asked my wife to come in was because a lot of times he found when he spoke with patients alone, when he mentioned the C word, they kind of just lost it and then didn't really hear what he said after that. So he said, I always like to have someone else there who hears it and can make sure they help to synthesize the information. And so it wasn't until the day I was going back to him to discuss my treatment options that it hit me. And you know, I really broke down, because I'm thinking this could take me out. I won't see my kids grow up and this kind of thing. Anyway, we went and had the discussion. He gave me my options for treatments. You know, he said they found a few spots in the prostate. He said, we don't know how many other spots there are. It's just the ones we tested, we found there, so there could be more spots. And he said the radical prostatectomy was the recommended procedure, because it didn't appear as if the cancer had moved beyond the prostate. So I said to him, I said, okay, well, that's fine, but I have vacation planned in a couple of months, and I have a busy time of year coming up, so I'll just take care of this next January, February. So he said, listen, you've been given a gift to have found this at 3.5. He said, I've seen men who come in my office at 3.5, and they come back a year later and they're 8 or 10 or 12, and the cancer is gone outside of the prostate, and then it's a whole different story. He said, if I were you, I would not delay this. And so I made the decision to have the surgery done. I had the Da Vinci surgery done at the University of Miami. As Earl said, I had actually So Dr. Anwala was the one that diagnosed me, but I actually saw 3 separate urologists at University of Miami who also read the results and also came up with the same thing. And so I went ahead, had the surgery. 6 weeks, it was the arthroscopic surgery, so there wasn't a big cut or anything. There were just some small, I think about 5 or 6 small cuts on my abdomen. 6 weeks after that, I was on a plane going on family vacation to England. Granted, I had to wear one of the little small Depends things because you have a bit of leakage. As the guys who've been through it know, the muscles that control your urine flow, one of those is located in the prostate. And so when they remove the prostate, what I liken it to is that you have a fella that's two fellas that's lifting a table. One of those fellas goes away, and now only one has to lift the table by himself. And so there's only one muscle left now to control that urine flow. So until you strengthen that muscle enough to control that urine flow, you have to wear something to do it. The catheter at the beginning was kind of fun because I could go out and I didn't have to worry about stopping to pee anywhere. I didn't have to worry about getting up to pee. But eventually, I was able to get control of the urine flow back, and that didn't take a whole lot of time at all. But as I said, 6 weeks after the surgery, the doctor said to me, you can travel, don't do anything strenuous, don't lift any heavy luggage, which was good for me because then I had a reason not to lift all the shopping and that kind of stuff. And so, but yeah, so that was it. Now, they also, in Miami, sat me down and discussed the options available. They said, now, this surgery should spare your nerves. It's a nerve, we hook you up to the Da Vinci robot, and it's the surgeon that did it said my hands would move too much and I would cut your nerves if I just did it with my hands. He said, but because I'm using the robot, it doesn't have that, the trembling and that kind of thing that a normal human's hands would have. He said, but if it doesn't work, there are options. There are obviously things like injections. You inject a needle in there. That's obviously not the most pleasant thing for most guys. But then there's all the way to things like the pump, which basically makes you a bionic man in bed. You pump it up and it doesn't go down until you let the pump, let the fluid out of the cylinder in the pump. So, hearing these options, it kind of allays your fears a bit about not being able to perform after the surgery. I would say that one of my inspirations was Earl Bethel. I had just joined Rotary, and Earl was president when I joined, and Earl took a leave of absence for a few months from Rotary to go and get his surgery done. And so when I was diagnosed and I was thinking about the long-term prospects of this, Earl was one of the people that I thought about and said, Earl did this, and my own was about 6 years ago. Earl would have done it about 15 years before that. And he was still here as healthy as a horse, going to his Miami Dolphin games and watching him getting beat every week. And so, that was probably more pain than the cancer treatments. And so it's been a journey. I go back every 6 months to have the PSA tested. And to make sure that nothing's happening. Like Earl, I was spared the chemotherapy. So I almost feel like I'm not worthy of calling myself a cancer survivor because, I had the surgery and touch wood so far, it's been good. Some of the things that I know a lot of other men have been through, I've seen some men close to me. I know we have Mr. Morrow who can tell you more about his story. But, sometimes I feel like I'm just not worthy to be called a cancer survivor. So sometimes I go somewhere and they say, well, who are the cancer survivors in the room? And I don't volunteer, not because I'm embarrassed by it, quite the opposite. After I was diagnosed, and Val and I and a couple other guys started something in November where we got to work with 100 Jams and some of the other radio stations. They let us come on, and we got Rotary and some others to sponsor some testing. And so what we do is Rotary has a bloodmobile, and we take the bloodmobile, we took it down to the fish fry, we took it to Roslyn Square, took it to the mall, and we just stop men there and say, hey, come guys, come and get your blood tested. I know that the blood test is not the only way, and some people don't even think of it as the best way to do it. But in a society where we have a lot of men who are simply not going to go and get the digital, the PSA and tracking that over the long term is better than the other option. A lot of them didn't know that the PSA was an option for them. They said, well, I never went because I don't want that finger. And so once you say to them, listen, you really should get the finger, but if you're not going to get the finger, this little prick from the needle is going to help you. It could save your life. And you know, some of them were afraid of needles. And then the point we'd make to them is, listen, a prick with a needle lasts about 3 seconds. The digital rectal lasts between 5 and 10 seconds. If this is going to give you 10, 20, 30 years more life, why wouldn't you do it? It's almost a no-brainer not to do it. So I've worked with Val, toiling to try and get men to get themselves tested. If they don't want to do the digital rectal, then at least let's get the blood test, the PSA. We were tracking it for a while, so we had a lot of men who were repeats, and but then COVID came along, and we kind of suspended the program, and we haven't gotten started yet. There were 1 or 2 men who, as we did the testing, the numbers came back quite high, and so we said to them, listen, you need to go and see your doctor or urologist right away and get this checked a bit deeper. But that, in a nutshell, I guess is my story. As I said, it was a radical prostatectomy for me. Things worked once that was done. But I always say, well, if it doesn't work, the doctors in Miami said to me, come back and it'll only take a couple hours for us to put the pump in or whatever it is, whatever other option you need. And ED, erectile dysfunction, when, you know, they don't talk about a whole lot of personal health issues on television, right? But ED is one that any time of the day, if I'm watching Good Morning America, there's an ad on for an ED clinic in Miami. If I'm watching sports, there's ads on for it. You know, whatever it is you're watching, you get guys who come out and they're talking about it. So it's just a matter of getting our Bahamian men to go and get tested and consistently. And, you know, and that means taking care of yourselves every year. Just go to your doctor, get the blood tests every year like I did. And it could just save your life. So that's my story.
Okay, Mr. Ingram, a question. Did you have any symptoms initially when your PSA was rising, or you were asymptomatic?
Pretty much asymptomatic. When I was diagnosed, I was 52. But like any 52-year-old man, my stream wasn't what it was at 19. So you figure, well, it's normal aging, but there were no significant indications that there was anything going on. And so for me, that's why it was kind of a bit of a shock. In fact, I remember asking the doctor, I said, you know, I'm so young, I'm 52. Why is this happening to me? And he said, last week I had a guy in my office who was 40 that I diagnosed, and his was more advanced than yours. And so at that point, then you start to feel that you're blessed to have discovered this at the point you did, but no symptoms.
Now, you've been pretty vigilant in keeping abreast and keeping on top of having annual physical exams. What advice would you give to these young men who are deathly afraid? I know now I opt to do I did a little course in ultrasound, doing ultrasound of the prostate. So sometimes those that are fearful, when they come in, I would do a prostate ultrasound and the PSA and negate the digital just to appease them. But even if I do the digital on most of them, I still do an ultrasound, because sometimes if the lesion is deep in the tissue, you may not feel it. So there are options to be screened, and I can't stress enough that there's no need to be afraid, because early detection gives you almost 100% rate of cure.
Well, you know, I guess and sometimes you have to put it to people in terms that are kind of stark and say, well, you know, what are you more afraid of, a 3-second digital rectal or dying and leaving your family? What causes more pain for you and others around you? And sometimes that's the way it has to be put to people when they need to think about it.
I agree.
I see Val has
Mr.
his
Mortem,
hand up.
pardon me?
I see Val Alcatel one has his hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
Unmute Val.
Ax, you have a
Hello,
question
can
to ask?
anybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can hear
Val.
you.
You wanted
you
to say
mute-
something, Val?
You're muted again, Val. Try now.
Go ahead and speak. Speak, Val.
Aaron, can anybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear
Yes,
you,
we can
Val.
hear
you
you.
now.
Can.
Maybe you can't hear us. Can you hear us, Val? It's not usually like him to be speechless.
No, I think he's having technical difficulties. He's back on mute.
Yeah.
But there is a question in the chat to all the presenters. Has the diagnosis of prostate cancer changed your attitudes on lifestyle, i.e. diet, exercise, alcohol, etc.?
Obviously, as a member of the Rotary Risk and Wine Society, I do drink a bit in moderation. I don't drink heavily. One of the things, just before I was diagnosed, I had actually, I had friends who were starting to smoke cigars, and I started to get into that. And suddenly I thought, okay, this is God's way of telling me to drop the cigar. I've cut back on red meat and those kinds of things. So I try to have fatty foods as infrequently as possible. Try to eat more, try to exercise a lot more than I was before that. So it definitely has made a difference to me to try and be more healthy.
There was
Thank you.
another question about where can I go to get checked out, and who do you recommend?
Your general practitioner, your regional doctor, your local doctor, your personal doctor. Everybody is trained to do digital rectal exams, and they can order a PSA to go along with your annual physical. So just check your primary care doctor. If there's anything untoward, then your primary care doctor will refer you to a urologist for further assessment, diagnosis, and treatment.
Thank you.
Before I introduce our final honored guest tonight, Mr. Valentine Mora, I'd just like to speak about the risk that's associated with prostate cancer. The biggest one is age. Prostate cancer is rare under the age of 40, and incidences rises dramatically after the age of 50. 6 in 10 cases are found in men over the age of 65. Race and ethnicity. There's an increase incidence in Blacks and Caribbean men. Geography. It is most common in North America, the Caribbean, Northwest Europe, and Australia. Family history. There may be genetic factors. Having a father or a brother with prostate cancer doubles a man's risk. Gene mutation. The BRCA1 and 2 gene has been associated with prostate cancer, with the BRCA gene being the more dominant one, associated with certain mutations that increase the risk of prostate cancer. Obesity, smoking, recurrent sexually transmitted diseases and prostate infections, diseases such as BPH or benign prostatic hypertrophy. And I didn't know this one, but it may be associated with a vasectomy. But you guys can still have your vasectomy. So tonight, let me introduce our final guest, Mr. Valentine Mora. Mr. Mortimer, did you have anything to contribute?
Just, I guess, a lighter note on the digital rectal examination. One of the techniques I use, especially with small groups at companies and churches, is that we ask that the audience be all men, so we can speak quite frankly. And I usually stick up my finger and I said, this is not a magic finger. It will not change your sexual preference in 10 seconds. And the men laugh about it, and then we get them in. So that type of campaign got, we did, I think in 2 days, we did 816 men in 2 days. We of course some traffic accidents almost, because there were so many men there. They were there from 5 o'clock in the morning. But that is because you explained to them what is going on. I'm trying to remember the name of the urologist, but he said, if you live old enough, you're gonna have a problem with your prostate.
Yeah, definitely.
And he said he became a urologist because he witnessed his grandfather suffer. He said it is a long and painful death. So he became a urologist because of that. But we have a concerted effort in us too, Grand Bahama, to do that. Actually, our goal now is 1,000 men in a year. And during COVID, we did actually do, we are over 600 now, because we have made engagements with private clinics to do it for us. And we will have to charge a small fee because all of our screenings are free of charge. All 816 of them are free of charge. Many of the biopsies are free of charge. So, some gentleman came up one day and he said, where's the donation box? And he put $50 in it. So since 2017, a donation box was there. And they just put the money in, So it helps us. It costs us about $50, $60 per person to screen. And of course, we've done a couple of biopsies. We paid for biopsies. And we've also, I think we did paid for 1 or 2 of the surgeries. And simply because we have a significant amount of men that just can't afford it. I don't know what's the cost of doing that type of examination in a private doctor's office. But as a former civil servant, I availed myself of the clinics. And all my services are free to the clinic. So every time they ask for a blood test twice a year, I say, scratch off PSA. And then I get my PSA and then we keep it, because at our program, we also track you. So if we notice a jump, then we actually come in for a secondary exam. So we kind of track you. And then of course you have the men, sad to say, that go into denial. Bush medicine gonna be the best thing. But I'll speak about that later if you have the time.
Anyways, Mr. Mortimer, what you're doing is impressive. I'm impressed. And I want you to keep up whatever you're doing to bring people in, to keep this awareness campaign going so we can keep these numbers down. So let me introduce Mr. Valentine Mora, who was born on the 13th of October, 1948, a Roman Catholic in belief and practice. He was educated at St. Francis Xavier Primary and Secondary School, Rochester State Community College, New York Fine Arts Academy, and the Institute, and he holds an Institute of Bankers certificate. His employment is International Banking Trustee Administrator. His interests and experiences: junior achievement, diocesan chorale, church choirs, drama and theater at the Dundas Theater, Cancer Society of the Bahamas, Us2 Prostate Cancer Group, New Providence, Rotary Club of New Providence, and he likes to walk. So, Mr. Valentine Mora, can you please tell us your story? Hello?
I believe he may have dropped off again. I'm not seeing him. So we may have to move on to the next item until he's able to either get back in or work out his technical difficulties. I'm not seeing him in here anymore.
So back to you, Mr. Mortimer.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I heard one of my persons that I had asked to share their story. Bishop Leslie Woodside, if he's on.
I
Yes.
see.
Good afternoon, good evening, actually. When contacted today, I put together some information. I didn't know whether it's relevant here, but I'm going to go ahead anyhow. Let me know if I'm out of order. I did some research on prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is occur in the prostate. Prostate is a small walnut-shaped gland in male that produces the seminal fluid that nourishes and transport sperm. Many prostate cancer grows slowly and are confined to the prostate glands where they may not cause serious harm. However, while some type of prostate cancer grows slowly and may need minimal or no treatment at all, other types are aggressive and can spread rapidly, quickly. Symptoms I will mention on this program tonight are trouble urinating and decreased force in stream of urine, blood in the urine, blood in the semen, bone pain, losing weight without even trying to lose weight, and erectile dysfunction. Prostate cancer is a disease in which malignant or cancerous cells are found in the tissue of the prostate. It is the most common cancer in men, including or excluding skin cancer. A second leading cause of cancer death in men. Prostate is a gland that makes and store semen. It is located in front of the rectum, below the bladder, and surrounds the top part of the uterus. Prostate cancer typically grows slowly over time, finding the disease early rather than late through screening can prevent the spread of the disease, and reduce side effects, and help men live longer, have a longer life. In some cases, prostate cancer can be observed, can watch it, pay attention to it, rather than treat it immediately. Also cause active surveillance. You do a surveillance, so you as was mentioned, you keep on checking it, keep on getting your regular checkup. Naturally, nearly all prostate cancer develop from the prostate gland cells. There are several other types of prostate cancer, but they are rare. And there are risk factors. The greatest risk factor for prostate cancer is age. The challenge of men developing prostate cancer increase significantly after the age of 50, and in most cases occur in men over 65. If you have a family history of prostate cancer, you may also be at risk due to certain genetic inherited factor. African American, as I mentioned, and Caribbean men of Caribbean like this seasoned food, of African descent, also are more likely to develop prostate cancer. Reason why these men experience more intense of cancer is not really clear, I guess. Dr. James perhaps give us more information on that. What can we do then to prevent prostate cancer? Not using tobacco? Then you got to speak with your doctor, on that particular subject. Eating healthy diet, including plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grain, lean protein, and low-fat diet. Then again, here we get to talk to your doctor and your nutritionist to find out what is best for you. Keeping a healthy weight. We like to have that belly in front of us. If we don't have a belly, we are not men. Ask your doctor how we can lose weight. Getting regular prostate cancer screening helps a lot. If you can detect it, particularly if you're from age 55 to 70. Asking your doctor about, generic testing. If you have a family history of prostate cancer, you may have an inherited condition that increases the risk of the disease. I was diagnosed at the age of 69. I'm now 76, and I have 5 children, 12 grandchildren, 2 great-grand. And so my problem was I find myself having problem urinating during the night, getting up early too frequently. So I went to a doctor, and he gave me a letter to take to Dr. Roberts. Dr. Roberts examined me, had a biopsy, and took 12 pieces all out. And I think a couple of them come back and said that it's positive. So from then on, I continued attending Dr. Roberts, and he arranged for me to have surgery. He used to have a doctor comes out from Cleveland Clinic to Iran in Grand Bahama. And both times, I even spent a night in Iran. Both times I was ineligible to receive the surgery because of blood condition. I had a surgery prior to me having the prostate. Several surgeries. But then when it comes to having the doctor from Cleveland Clinic perform the surgery, I discovered that I was not eligible, even though I spent get all the tests, went in the hospital and all that. And so here I am. I am taking treatment every 3 months from Dr. Roberts. Every 3 months I get the treatment, then get the surgery. So I consider myself a cancer survivor because I'm still living. I'm living, all right? And I'm happy. I think I'm trying to eat right. When I get careless, I eat anything, but I always do it moderately. Try to rest a lot, rest the body, eat a lot of fruits, exercise, walk every day, just about. And when the Lord ready, He'll take me. It is not a death sentence. Thank you.
Thank you too, sir. Is Mr. Valentine Moore back?
I just finished talking with him. He can't hear us. We can hear him. So he had tried to restart his phone to see if he can get on. And I just got off the phone with him, so he's trying to get back on.
Okay. So in the
Give him a few
meantime,
minutes.
okay. In the meantime, let's go to our co-host so he can tell us all about this Us Too, Grand Bahama, and what they're doing to continue this prostate cancer awareness campaign, and what effect has their campaign had on the general populace and decreasing the numbers of men that are having advanced prostate cancer. Can you tell us more about that, Mr. Mortimer?
Yeah, okay, just a brief on us two Grand Bahama. I guess I can talk about me first. My fraternity adopted us two for the simple reason that our fraternity adopts the American Cancer Society. And I indicated that, well, we are a group of men, and we have a society of men that deal with their men's cancer. So I was the member appointed to be on the membership of us two Grand Bahama. And lo and behold, I became chapter leader. I don't have problems with my prostate, which us two international found very surprising. I think I still under 1 point or 0.1 or whatever that is. And I took on the reins in 2017. But we started officially, I think, in 2009. And we were chartered. And within 1 year, we got the highest award that us two international awards any of their chapters because of our work. And I kept saying that we need to promote, we need to screen. When I said we need to do up to 600, there were complaints. I said, what's stopping us? Nothing. Then we hit 700. We actually broke 2 records in 1 year, which was the 700, and then we had 100 at the second day, which would have been the 816. So we also have people who the PSA comes back high. We have counselors that speak with them with their results. You don't just send your results. If your results have changed from the last year or the trend is getting higher, we have several people who are counselors that will speak to you and begin to let you know that when you go to see the doctor may give you these options or he may do this. And if it comes to the point of the biopsy, then we make those arrangements. I remember the screening director told me one day that I think he took in maybe a dozen exams to be tested at the run. And I think 10 out of the 12 came back positive. And he said he just sat down in the parking lot and cried. But we're working strongly in conjunction with the RAN. As a matter of fact, the RAN said we'd save them hundreds of thousands of dollars each year for what we do. So they gave us their facility to do the screenings on Coral Road. But at 800, we have outgrown that. So we're now looking for places to do our screening. We're looking for a home, really, in order to do the work that we have to do. Just recently, we lost one of our founding members. And, it's not a setback, but, it's something that we have to look forward to. He didn't die of prostate cancer. We had a spokesperson that I really, really liked him because he survived stage 4 prostate cancer that had already metastasized to his bones. And he was in his 4th or 5th year of survival after everything was clear. And then what was so disheartening, and I always say God get jokes, he died of COVID. Went through all of that struggle beating stage 4 and then died of COVID. But of course, his immune system would have been compromised during the height of COVID. So, but we use survivors to speak to men so the men can say it's real. It's not just a doctor speaking to them. It's not somebody else speaking to them, but somebody real who went through it and doing so. So it gets a little better, and I find small groups are better than an auditorium, because sometimes men will ask you intimate questions. That's why we have started asking the women to stay put and outside the door. But as far as the screening goes, we have no problem because some of the women bring their men. They don't voluntarily come, they bring them. And I remember we had this guy, he was, I think he was like 84. And one of the questions the screeners asked was, did you have sex within the last 2 days? And he shouted to the whole audience, yes. And his wife was just in the corner there blushing, But, we explained to them that if you had sex 2 days before, it may increase your PSA. And so doing, or if you've ridden a bicycle or so on and so on and so forth. So they told us that the explanation that are given by survivors helps them more than just speaking to a medical professional. And we've adopted that, and we've been doing that. We've asked everybody, if you could, a church, let us speak to your men. Let us, a civic group, let us speak to your men. So we've done a couple of lodges. We've done some, many churches. Right now, I'm working with trying to get the Lutheran group for us to meet with their men, to speak with them about that. Now, we're unable to do our general screening this September. Again, coming off of COVID and all of that other stuff. And like I said, we've been doing the screening so often. Excuse me. And one of our major fundraisers is a golf tournament that we have this year. I think it'll be in December. That raised some funds for us because we survive off of funding. We don't have no income generation like that, but people donate. The Public Hospitals Authority, on the other hand, they donated all of the supplies for our screening in 2017. You know, the bags for the waste, the syringes, and all of that was given to us. They say for the simple reason, if they came to the round, it will cost us X, Y, Z hundreds of thousands of dollars to do 800 plus men. You all doing it. So, and which was a godsend for us. And everybody who helps with the screening are volunteers. We buy lunch. And, you know, sometimes it ain't really the healthy lunch, but people want chicken and fry. But we are hoping to expand. We're trying to encourage more men to get involved with us too. Of course, we work along with the Cancer Society in Grand Bahama. So when they go in October to do breast cancer, they would also promote doing the prostate for men wherever they go. And one of our medium-term goals now is to begin a chapter in Abaco and Bimini, because we are in close proximity to them, because we used to send a volunteer doctor to Abaco to do the screening. This is only, what, 15, 20-minute plane ride, if that long. And so that is how we're standing. And Dr. Robin Roberts is our consultant urologist. And we have other two that, I think one or two that volunteers. And as Reverend Woodside said, there are times when persons from the United States come to Grand Bahama to do surgeries for and on behalf of us too. So, and the other thing that we did on several occasions, we did the testing for the BRCA gene. And it was amazing the number of persons that had the BRCA gene mutation. Amongst us, both men and women did the testing, but it's a little difficult to afford having those people come back down and do that every year. If we could get the funding, we'd probably do it more often because we need that type of research. I mean, it was news to me when I first heard it, that a mother with a BRCA gene mutation can cause her son to have a higher risk of prostate cancer. Likewise, the father and the daughter with cervical cancer. So, you know, that was an eye opener for me. And then lastly, we are in constant contact. I am in constant contact with us2 International. And of course, we are now getting information from the Prostate Cancer Foundation, which raises money for prostate cancer research. And hopefully, if we can open up a research facility here, we can get funding from them. And it's easier now that we are a registered nonprofit with the government, which would make our goal easier. If anybody have any more questions, I'll be more than glad to answer.
Mr. Mortimer, one question from me, just out of curiosity, to ensure constant and continuous awareness of cancer, not just prostate, but all cancers. Do you think it would be advantageous to start an early campaign, let's say in the 12th grade, just to make people aware of cancer? Because in my practice, I'm now seeing cancer is occurring in patients at a younger age. Not so much prostate cancer, but other cancers like cervical, breast. I even saw penile cancer the other day. The person was young. They were HIV immunocompromised. but they had a lesion on the penis. I biopsied it, sent it off, and it was malignant. Person wasn't even 30 yet. So we're seeing all these cancers, and I'm wondering if we should adopt some program in the high school. We talk about signs and symptoms of cancer and early detection and screening. Even so, if the students don't have any symptoms, maybe if they see dad getting up frequently in the night, they will say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe dad has prostate cancer. Let me encourage him to go and get screened." Or if they notice mom's breast is dimpling or whatever, they can say, "Oh, mom." I'm just trying to find all kinds
I
of.
agree with you totally in the sense that one of the things we can do, there's a course in high school in every school called health science. Just add that to the curriculum of what needs to be taught within that, the defiance of that thing. Because as an educator, teachers are in a box.
Yeah.
You
And
say
one
this is
side-
what needs to be done, and they will do that. But
But
if
one
you ask
side-
them to go outside that box,
One side of the box is made up by religion and the confines and constraints of our religious society dictates basically what type of sexual and whatever else our kids learn. I don't think that's fair. I think we should have sex education openly in the school. They're getting it on the streets anyways. Have
Well,
sex education in the street, in the schools, and let's teach about screening for cancer, and like you say, in the health science course, so kids can be aware, if not for themselves, for their parents and their friends around them.
well, all right. There's also a course, I think they have to be done in grade 11 and 12 called Family Life, which would be ideal for sex education and also that. But, you know, one year they asked me to teach family life. I said, I'm not qualified to teach family life. I can only speak from my experience. And I was not a modest teenager. So what can I teach them? But you need persons in there. For example, if you're talking about the different types of cancers that could possibly happen, somebody needs to be trained in that arena.
I agree.
You know, or when it's, because there's a section of family life that deals with these matters.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the people, the religious people became aware of it, but it's in there. It just needs to be honed and planned properly. Or the person say, okay, can I come to you? I'm teaching family life. When it comes to that area, is there any information that you could give me to be able to share it? Because it talks about children and marriage and all that other stuff. You know, so the two courses are there, family life and health science.
Yeah.
And I think health science is an exam course also.
I think it just has to be developed properly and executed properly so that this educational campaign for awareness can be ingrained in them from a young age. So as they grow with their friends and their family, they can detect or notice symptoms that, you know how many people come in advanced stage cancer, their wives are laying next to them every night and they're getting up 7, 8, 9 times a night to pee, or they can't get an erection anymore, or they can't ejaculate. All the signs are present and she doesn't notice. Why? Is she ignorant to the signs and symptoms? Maybe she is. She just doesn't know. And so they don't push and encourage their husbands to go and get their prostate checked.
But they think that's part of the process of getting older.
Yes, and
So one or two persons have told me that.
Yeah, so that's why more educational campaigns are needed to educate people as to what the signs and symptoms are, and people just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, up until I retired, 2019, a young girl told me that the best contraceptive is Coca-Cola.
So
I mean, like, I said, what do you do? Drink a Coke when you finish? She said, no, you put the Coke in there.
Oh,
Like, you know, I heard that when I was a little boy. So those kind of myths are abound because we don't teach them properly.
I agree, and those myths needs to be dispelled and do away with, and facts needs to be instituted where in educational programs where people can actually know and listen to people like you and me who are survivors who have gone through the process, and so they can learn to recognize the signs and symptoms for early detection and complete cure.
I enjoyed this commercial that was on, it used to be on ZNS about this lady who had a double mastectomy.
Yeah.
And she slowly turned and then they showed her without the breast. And that was quite powerful to me. And I said, I hope every person would watch that. You know, she didn't become less of a woman. And I think she was saying that in her monologue or whatever, but that was very powerful.
And by you saying that, Mr. Mortimer, that's another sore point that I encounter regularly in my practice, where a woman feels that if she has a uterus removed because of cancer, or her ovaries removed, or her breast removed, that she's less than a woman and her husband wouldn't want her. And somehow, some way, we need to dispel these myths and get rid of all these weird folk tales that these people believe and present the facts. So
And it's very real.
Yeah, it is. And so people can do what they need to do in order to live a productive life. So we have a lot of work to do. Anyway, I appreciate what you're doing with this Us Two group. Continue, and kudos to you. Is Mr. Valentine Moore available? Hello?
I don't think he was able to get back on.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that kind of sums up our presentation for tonight, but we're taking questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, interjections, now is the time to ask.
And that
I hope-
the National Health Insurance Plan covers for PSA testing. So I guess those out there that are listening, you can register for the NHI and it covers your PSA testing.
Yeah, and if you meet the requirements, it's totally free, and they're about to add a lot more testing to their lineup of tests that they already offer. So if you don't have insurance and testing is a concern for anyone you know, send them to check with National Health Insurance. They may just qualify for the free plan that gets them the regular checkups that they need. That gets some certain lab tests that they may need. And as I said, at the moment, they are looking to expand it to even more things.
Mr. Ingram, do you have any final words of advice to give to
Go ahead.
Amy?
Good evening. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
They can hear you, Val.
Hello?
They can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. I want to say thanks so much to Johan for trying to get me in on the program. And I was so frustrated. It's now quieting down because I wanted to make a contribution. Basically, I endorse what Tim has been saying about what he went through and all the tests and all the trials he had after he had surgery. I took as Dr. Roberts and I sat down and talked about it. It was crazy because I was with us too then, and we were doing screening for 4 years. And he said, "Hey, what happened? You haven't been screened. You haven't taken any tests." So he said, "Let's do it now." So we did it right there, impromptu. And then after we discussed everything, I'm just going to be shooting towards the end in the interest of time. And so we decided that after the biopsy, that I was fortunate. It wasn't aggressive, and it was not being aggressive. Of course, there were not that many spots showing the cancer cell, and so I decided, and he went along with me to say that, well, we'll take the radiation treatment. And then after the radiation treatment, which was a challenge in itself, because basically I was alone at that time, all alone. And so all the effects that the radiation was having on me, the urination, and of course, I wasn't even concerned about ED at that time. And I just went through the whole process by myself, which was a rather difficult thing to do. But I had to make it to Bahamas Heart Center for the in Collins Avenue for the radiation, and then after that was finished, I went through the Zoladex implants, which took care of the testosterone, and you all have an idea of what that is, what the aim of that is to do, and so actually. I took my testosterone away, and I went from a real low base into really a baritone. My singing range took off, and people are saying, "Oh, I didn't know you could sing that good." And I think, amazingly enough, it was because of the loss of the testosterone that didn't make me all that the testosterone makes a man separate from a woman. And so I was there for a while. It took me, I just couldn't believe that the day would come when they would tell me, well, you're now okay. So when I went for my follow-up, then they were saying, okay, yeah, you did good. 0.0 I said, wonderful. Well, I never was too high in the first place, but it's just that the presence was there and the detection, the early detection was there. The book says early detection, the best protection. And so one of the things that I was glad of was when they told me, well, you're okay now. And I said, oh, great. And so I went on this health binge about sleeping, proper diet, exercise, and all of that, And so when I was diagnosed as being in recovery, I said, wonderful. And then, of course, I've heard some people while I was still on, I've heard talking about ED. I wasn't even thinking about no ED. For what? My boys on the corner had me doing all kind of foolishness from I was about 14. So when you're nearing 70, my Lord, there comes a time when the bucket was full, or if the bucket isn't full, it's now empty. So what you can do? No need to get all worked up about that. But there's a story that I would like to tell that it sort of presents a side of this whole process that I think might help some people. I was a wild young guy, and here, there, and everywhere. And then I took note one night, and I said, I'm doing a lot of foolishness. I'm just out of control. In my bed, I prayed God to take that away from me. I wasn't thinking, oh, they're going to take it away. I thought they'd just take away the desire. But then they took away. They gave me what I asked for, and I ended up with prostate cancer. And I think that was their answer to saying, this is how we'll calm you down. And so when I was going through all the procedure and the disadvantages and the pains and the feeling depressed at times and all that. I always felt like them up there in the heavens who are in control of everything is taking care of me. So I have no problems, you know. And so I just like to say to people who may be listening, you might be worried about this and you might be worried about that. You might be worried that, hey, cancer takes you out. It doesn't. The men that have made the presentation tonight are prime examples. And I'm so glad that this meeting took place because now we can formalize what we need to do. One of the factors that bothers me about prostate cancer and treatment is that if you are not covered by insurance and you are not if you don't have sufficient income to deal with that, and I wasn't on the lowest totem pole when you start talking about not much income or finances, you know, and so I would like to see a concerted effort made that somehow we either lower the cost of treatment or increase the support that we get from other sources. Okay, and so Cancer Society being who they are or who we are. Okay, with this presentation, I think the same participants can come together now and bash heads and just try to find a way now. How do we have those? Because you know, some guys came to get tested and it cost $20, and we almost turned them away. And I said, by no means are we going to turn them away. I know where I can go to get $100 tonight. That'll cover 5 men. And of course, I had the means of getting more than $100, probably in the space of 2 days, because people liked what we were saying, what we were trying to do, and they were saying, "Okay, we'll help." Okay, so this whole thing, it has a, as they say in the United States, it has an income and a human disparity. Those that can afford it have no problem. Those who can't afford it, what happens? Those who can't afford even the biopsy. Okay, so we need to sit down, come together, analyze the whole process, and see where we could go when it comes down to this finance and being able to afford all the treatments or any of the treatment. Because you know, you have the prostatectomy, and then you have the implants, and then you have the radiation. All them put together, they're going to cost you something. So I've been on a Zoom with a group that's trying to do exactly that. And so I think that's where we need to be heading to find out how do we support or supplant this very expensive thing. And now they're talking about, oh, you can find out where you have prostate from the MRI or they start throwing letters at you. But this is different type of machine. Well, then, Tim, you know where I'm headed with this possibilities, okay, in our district. So therefore, we all need to have an expansion. It doesn't have to be national or just mass or as this one is, okay? But definitely we need to come together and we need to do it. Basically, that's it for my contribution, because I think I love the way Tim presented it. I loved the way Earl presented. I heard both of them within the little gap. Good thing I have the president of Southeast NASA, Elon, in on this meeting because he was able to get me hooked up. So I hope all of that was heard, and that from that presentation comes everything. So I thank you very much, Dr. Fox, for the way you handle it. You don't remember me, but I was there some 20, 30, 40 years ago, more or less, when you were the old position in Collins Avenue, and I was playing football and I got injured, and you took care of me. But like I said, that was long ago. So Cancer Society and through Dr. Fox, through Dr. Shea, to all the participants, I said, we're on the road now. We've only just begun. So thank you very much. I trust that I've said something that helps some kind of help.
No,
Okay.
indeed.
And good night.
Indeed, and I thank you for your contribution. I have just one comment to make about cost. I think that one of the biggest obstacles in terms of cost is early detection and screening. If we detect early and we screen early, it reduces the cost, because the later you detect the cancer, the more it will cost. That's surgery, that's chemo, that's loss of time from work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the later you detect the cancer, it becomes. So I think the answer to one of your questions is more screening. There should be a national screening campaign. Us too is doing a fantastic job. Cancer Society is doing a fantastic job. But we still need to dispel the myth and break the, for lack of a better word, homophobia associated with getting your prostate examined and screened for early detection. That's my 5 cents. Does anybody else have anything to say along those lines?
You see, once we could construct an attractive means of getting the men to come out and get tested, because it's not an easy job, you know. Us too, bless their hearts, have been at this for so long, and still, there are guys that I meet on the road who are going to tell me drink gin and cranberry, or take this bush or that bush or the next bush. And I always have to say, okay, that's well and good. How much do I take for stage 1? How much do I take for stage 2? How much do I take to stage 3? And of course, stage 4. So if you're telling me I could do it all natural, I lost a person that I was dealing with that decided he wouldn't take what medication he was given. He would go down the road to the natural herb shop and he would let them treat him. Well, regrettably, very sadly, he's no longer with us.
I always find that absolutely amazing. We have tried and proven therapies in the world of medicine, yet we have people when they're diagnosed, they go to these herbalists and they go this way and they go that way. And then when you see them again, they're in such an advanced stage of cancer and they're begging for your help. And there's absolutely nothing you can do other than sympathize with them and just passive palliative therapy to make them comfortable so they can die. I don't know why that happens. It's frightening, it's frustrating, but it happens quite a bit in this town. Are there any other questions?
If I might add an anecdote here. Everybody familiar with the saying they had about Bahamas there? You know, if you got time to spare. Well, I was scheduled for a flight, and 30 minutes after the flight was scheduled, the lady came on due to operational reasons, flight so-and-so will be delayed. And that went on for about 3 hours. And every time the announcement came on, the people in the lobby made a lot of noise. So the last one was said, this is so-and-so, this is the pilot. We are waiting on a navigational instrument. Now we could get you up in the air, but we ain't sure if we could get you back down. That's why the flight is delayed. You didn't hear a peep in the lobby because people understood the information that was given.
Right.
And I'm saying with our situation, we need to give out information, quite frankly.
Yes,
If
yes.
you don't do this, this will happen.
And you know, I was about to say to Dr. Fox, you know, he is a professional and he may not know how to do it, but me coming off a stage know how to make you accept some difficult things through laughter or through a bit of happiness. You know, if I can make you feel good about a bad situation, then you accept that bad situation. So it's just that we need to come from right now, the war is on. We need to come from all different angles to try combat this lethargy that we have and disinterest around them. They drink gin and cranberry. But how are you going to know when you have moved from T2 down to T1 and then disappear? You know, because I like to say the cancer goes into cells like little bad boys around the corner. There's only two of them. Then when you look, it's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And of course, each one wants to be higher than the next one. So they break away and they're gone. They got their own little gang. And so I think I like the picture in my mind that that's how the cancer works. The cells, when they go into a tumor.
That's an awesome analogy.
When they start to metastasize, that's another story. So we have to look at all of that in terms of how do we make men accept it? You know, you go head on. We can't have a football game. You just got to find a way to cajole and make them feel like this ain't nothing, but it's everything. You know, it ain't nothing in terms of you've got to go through, but it's everything to stop you from going down.
Yeah, well, that's true because that's one of the things we worked on with us too in Grand Bahama, getting them out, getting the information out, speaking to them, trying to dispel certain myths. I just got 7 names yesterday from men who say they wish to be screened. So probably within a day or two, they'll get a phone call saying your appointment is at such and such a clinic. Because we can't do the general thing yet because of the round facilities. But these are men who are saying now, I got this information, I was in this meeting, I wish to be screened. So, and that is why the importance of having a man-only meeting, because if you have a female in that room, a lot of guys are going to be reserved in what they want to say or what they want to ask. And you don't need a group more than 50 men. As a matter of fact, when we were speaking with the Port Authority, the person in charge of getting all the men, they were so impressed that she gave us a secondary donation, apart from what the Port donates to us. Because of what the man came back and told her about the meeting. And then having a survivor, they are speaking plainly, you know. You know, when they don't, he wasn't using the, you know, the proper medical term for the surgery, he's using something else. They said they was gonna cut out your courage or something like that if you don't, you know. And they knew, all the men in there knew what courage meant. So if you wait too long, because they had a guy in there, I think he was up to well over 12 or 15 from his PSA, but he wasn't getting in to get checked. And he said, oh, that girl goes with age. That was his situation. Until the guy said, no, man, it ain't no death sentence. But I think that information and a variety of types of information from the right people gets people aware of it and will wish to do it. And we have men who repeatedly come and ask, when is the next screening? And the goal of 1,000 in Grand Bahama is a bit much, but it's a goal that we could achieve. I don't want a goal that we can easily achieve. Then we have this whole crew of people in Abaco. As a matter of fact, several years ago, I think 2015, we started reaching out to the Creole community. So we got a Creole pastor to be able, he translated our documents into Creole and then spoke in Creole because the men were reluctant to come because they didn't understand properly what was being said. And that's a whole contingent now that we have. The outlying areas like 8 Mile Rock, High Rock, High Rock is about 50 miles away. 8 Mile Rock is about 30 miles from Freeport. 8 miles from Freeport. So we arranged for them to come to Freeport or come from High Rock to the screening. Or what we're planning to do now is to see what arrangement we can make to go to the clinic in 8 Mile Rock or the clinic in High Rock. Instead of having those men come, we'll go to them. The trouble is now getting the volunteer doctors and so on and so forth to do that. Usually most professionals, when they have time off, they really want to enjoy their time off. I'm sure the doctors would understand that. If you're a very, very busy person and you got some time off, it ain't doing you no good to tear yourself up. So, we appreciate those. As a matter of fact, if certain things go the way it should be, I'm going to have a banquet just to say thanks to our volunteers. And there's about 60, 70 of them, from phlebotomists to the doctors, nurses, and so on, just to say thanks, because a lot of times we don't do that. Just say thank you.
Bilingual volunteers about 6 or 7 years ago. And then also something that flashes back in my mind was when you had the screening at the Anglican Church Hall. Rudimentary, but it was done.
Yeah, we have a whole clinic now we use on a Saturday, Friday, and Saturday afternoon. They just empty out the clinic just for us.
Yeah, okay.
But seeing 400 men go through there on a Friday and 400 plus men going through there on a Saturday, that's a bit much for that building. And then all the traffic blocking the road. So you got to get police to organize traffic. So, we say, well, yes, that's a good idea, but we now need to expand what we're doing.
Yeah, you're going to have the walk this year?
No, that should have happened already. That's going to be done in April. The Fun Run Walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be done.
There were extenuating circumstances, so you can now have it in November.
Well, November is a bit quick. And we also have
for fun. Man. You know how much weeks that is? You know how much weeks that is, David?
Yeah, I know. But, the other thing we did, I don't know if it's plausible for other persons like the Cancer Society, but the people at UNESCO down here organized a No Shave November.
Yeah, okay.
And the men did not shave, so they had different awards for the best looking beard, the worst looking beard. Fun awards. And that took in that one company that took over.
All about that.
Yeah, that took in a couple of $1,000. So I told him, let's run with it. Let's try it. And I found out that is actually a thing in the United States. No Shave November. So it's a way of raising funds. And those companies that are strict with their grooming, they relax it. I probably win the Scraggliest Beard Award, but
have you ever tried the pints for prostate?
I submitted that to the brewery here. I haven't heard anything from last year. I haven't heard anything from them yet. Also, the pennies for prostate with the fuel companies. So, that could be a nationwide thing. I actually wrote a letter to Shell, Fokker. A
Well,
penny.
it sounds like this is now one-on-one, so I'll contact you by email and then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Yeah, I put my email in the chat.
Okay, good.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? No? Well, I want to say thank you to all of our distinguished men for telling us about their experiences, which I find is just absolutely fascinating and so real. And I appreciate you sharing this with the general public. I am impressed with Mr. Mortimer and his us too. It's amazing how they and do that. And it's been a wonderful forum. And I look forward to us having another one next year. Rochelle, do you have any comments to add?
No, I just share the sentiments. Thank you to all the presenters. Awesome presentations. Thank you for your candidness. And we know it takes a lot to get out here and speak these things, but we do appreciate it. And we hope that we achieve our objective, which is to create the awareness and blast the myths that are attached to these kinds of scenarios. So hopefully we've taken it a long way to that. Thank you, Mr. Mortimer, as well, for sharing all that your group is doing. And just it's an awesome job that you guys are doing to get those men out. Is quite an accomplishment, as Dr. Fox had indicated. But just thank you to everyone. And thank you also to Dr. Fox for your hosting and pulling it all together. We appreciate that. Great job to you also.
Thank you. Okay, well, we look forward to next year. Good night, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.